Season 4, Episode 16, Galaxy's Child. This is the sequel to the Geordie LaForge, Leah Brahms nonsense from Booby Trap, which was in Season 3. The actual Leah Brahms appears in this episode. She's not just an overly affectionate hologram. And of all the episodes they could have done a follow-up to, I don't know why they had to pick this one. And what they decided to do with Geordie in this episode is just, it's so bizarre. It's ridiculous and very cringe. Anyway, let's just get into it. The episode opens up with Picard telling Geordie that his engine mods have caught the attention of Starfleet Command, and they're sending Dr. Leah Brahms to take a closer look. And Geordie is absolutely giddy. He can barely fucking contain himself.
Leah is coming here. Whew. Well, this is terrific.
It is?
Ooh. That's cringe, right? Tell me I'm not imagining that. And even Picard looks uncomfortable. And he should, because he actually saw the Leah Brahms hologram from the previous episode. But he just kind of shrugs. Says, well, whatever. Geordie's weird. Nothing I can do about that. And Geordie thinks he's guaranteed to immediately hit it off with Leah Brahms. He thinks he knows her because of the positive interactions he had with a hologram that looks like her. He's having a talk with Guinan, and he lies and says that he's not expecting anything romantic. Whether he knows it or not, that's a lie, as we'll find out later. And Guinan should put a stop to this, but she just kind of lets it happen. Geordie deserves most of the blame for what's about to happen to him, but you think his captain and his friends would see some of the warning signs? You know, he thinks he's about to have an automatic bond with a person he's never met or interacted with on any level. You'd think his friends would discourage this, but they don't. They just let it happen. And she beams aboard, and this is how it goes.
The Forge. So you're the one who's fouled up my engine designs.
Honestly, that went better than I would have expected. And he starts showing her the ship. She's very argumentative, and Geordie gets defensive. And he eventually shows her a modification that he got from the Leah Brahms holodeck program. And the real Leah is surprised by this because it was going to be used in the next class starship. And rather than explain how he's aware of this, Geordie just kind of lies and takes the credit for it.
How did you know that?
I didn't. I mean, well, it's the next logical step, right? Listen, Doctor, sometimes we have to fly by the seat of our pants out here, so it stands to reason that once in a while we're going to come up with the same solutions you do.
I mean, why would he do that? Geordie is constantly making things awkward with Leah because he knows certain things about her work and personal life. And he never just explains why that is. If he just said, hey, I know this is kind of weird, but I know a little bit about you because during a crisis situation, I used a holographic representation of you to help me solve a problem. I mean, would that be so bad to say? Yeah, it's weird, but it couldn't possibly make things any worse than they're about to get. That's for sure. And after being awkward and arguing with this woman all day, Geordie decides that he's going to invite her to dinner in his quarters. I mean, why wouldn't he just say 10 forward? Let's have dinner in 10 forward. Is that so hard to say? But he makes it weird by saying in his quarters. And he thinks he's sweetening the pot by saying he makes a mean fungili. So here we go again with the fucking fungili. These made-up Italian dishes. I hate it. And it's worth noting that she never actually agrees to go. All she says is, I love fungili. And Geordie thinks that counts as a yes. So he goes to his quarters. He tries to make everything nice. He puts on some parachute pants and a big red velvet sweater. He looks like the inside of a fucking cake with this thing on. And he turns down the lights. He puts the fucking fungili in the replicator. And Leah shows up for this date that is not a date. And not surprisingly, it goes poorly. It's very awkward because Geordi continues to reveal all these things that he knows about Leah, but he never explains why or how. He claims he got all the information from her Starfleet records. He says it's standard procedure. I mean, he's lying. He's lying throughout this entire episode. He tries to play it off like he's just being smooth. But he's got a stacked deck. He's doing insider trading. And it still doesn't even work. She says it wouldn't be appropriate for her to have dinner with him, and she leaves. And while all this is going on, the Enterprise encounters an alien life form that lives in the vacuum of space, and it looks like a giant rotten ravioli with a tail on it. And they get probed. How exciting.
That was absolutely thrilling.
And this alien creature is inadvertently damaging the ship with its probe, and after trying all other options, they decide to fire phasers with minimum power, but even that is enough to kill the creature. Which is very strange because, at least in the original series anyway, ships' phasers could actually be set to stun large groups of people, just like hand phasers. But I guess that's not the case anymore. Anyway, it's dead. They found the equivalent of a space unicorn and they fucking whacked it. Tragic. But then they discovered that it was actually pregnant and the unborn creature is still alive. So they decide to perform some fucked up C-section on this thing with Dr. Crusher guiding Worf's incision. All this while Geordi is failing miserably on his fake date. You'd think the bridge would need Geordi in engineering for this encounter. But it's like there's two different episodes happening at the same time. I'm kind of surprised that Picard didn't call Geordi and say, listen, Commander, we just killed a giant space calzone up here, and we need to deliver its unborn baby. Could you stop canoodling in your quarters with people who don't even like you and get to engineering, please? But that never happens. And later, Geordi and Leah are examining more of his mods. She finally asks why he seems so interested in her, and he lies again. He says, to tell you the truth, I've studied you. I've admired your work. Which is probably true, but he never tells her how he originally found out about her. And she ends up dropping a bombshell on him when she tells him that she's married. And he reacts with such disappointment. Hey, I thought he wasn't expecting anything romantic. Remember that? And I don't know how the fuck he doesn't know that she's married. I mean, that's not in her files at all? Seems kind of weird. So, because of this, Geordi decides to go to 10 forward and sulk. And he complains to Guinan about how poorly things went with Leah. He says she's unfriendly, hates his mods, and to top it all off, she's married. And finally, Guinan knocks a little bit of sense into him. She says that he was only seeing what he wanted to see, and all Leah Brahms did wrong was fail to live up to his preconceived notions. Although Guinan calls her Leia instead of Leah. Be careful. You don't want to get sued by George Lucas. And while all this is going on, the rest of the crew is getting ready to deliver this space baby. You know, it's not that uncommon for an episode's plot and subplot to not really merge for most of the episode, but it's weird to see it when both of them take place in the same area. They're both on the ship, but it's like they're in two different episodes. It's really bizarre. Anyway, they get the newborn whatever the fuck out of the womb, and they're about to leave. They're just going to leave it on its own, never really wondering whether or not this thing is capable of fending for itself. They're just like, job well done. Bye-bye, little fella. And it starts sucking the energy from the Enterprise. It apparently thinks the Enterprise is its mother. And Riker has a weird smile on his face, as if to say, fuck yeah, I always wanted to be a big mommy milker. And how do they really know for sure that this thing thinks the Enterprise is its mother? I mean, maybe this is like a Inigo Montoya situation. I mean, it's probably unlikely, but it's just a thought. And finally, at the 30-minute mark, Geordi and Leah get involved with the problem facing the ship, and they work together to solve it. But before that happens, Leah decides she wants to see the Enterprise's original design specs, for some reason, and she discovers Geordi's holodeck program that features the overly affectionate Leah Brahms. Disastrous. And when Geordi finds out where she is, he goes running in, all panicky. And she's very pissed off. She says she's outraged and she feels violated. And this has to be where Geordi finally explains himself and apologizes, right? No, he inexplicably doubles down and plays the victim. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, look at this shit.
I'm guilty of reaching out to you, of hoping we could connect. I'm guilty of a terrible crime, Doctor. I offered you friendship.
Ooh, I didn't see that coming. I mean, it's childish, right? I mean, he's acting like a child right now. It looks like he's about to cry. And everything he says might be okay in a different context. I mean, she is pretty rude and cold and kind of unreasonable. I mean, the very first thing she says to him is, "So you're the one who fucked up my engines." But none of this has anything to do with what's going on here. It's got nothing to do with the hologram of herself that she just discovered. And he never explains himself about that. He just yells at her about other things and storms off. It's fucking incredible. And it works. She starts thinking she's wrong. It's fucking wild. This is like if in Psycho, Marion Crane discovered Norman Bates's peephole and questioned him about it. And he said, "Well, you shouldn't have made fun of my taxidermy earlier. And you don't even want to hear my side of it." And she was like, "Well, I guess you're right. I shouldn't have done that. So what is your side of it?" And he's like, "Well, I don't even want to tell you anymore." And he just leaves. That's basically what happened here. It's fucking insane. Anyway, where are we? Oh yeah, the ship is being sucked on like it's a tit by a stuffed shell. And I don't know why I keep comparing it to Italian food. Maybe it's all this talk about fungilli, but I kind of want to bite this fucking thing. Anyway, they come across an asteroid field with all these nutrients that this creature will need. So it's pretty convenient. And they manage to make the Enterprise unpalatable to the space baby somehow. And it works. And some other space creatures show up, and the baby decides to go with them, never to be seen again. Happy ending. And Leah actually apologizes to Geordi at the end of the episode. It's fucking wacky. And this whole Geordi-Leah saga concludes in the final episode of the series, where it's implied that Geordi is married to Leah. So I don't know what happened to her husband. Maybe I don't want to know. But I think it's a little creepy. And I don't know what the point of this episode is. I couldn't tell you. It's bad enough that Geordi is written this way. He's written like a high school kid that knows nothing. You know, he's like a kid with a crush on a celebrity that he doesn't even know, and she doesn't know he exists. And that might be fine if he learns a lesson from that. But they make it so that Leah Brahms is the one who has to learn the hard lesson about dealing with people. It's fucking bizarre. But it's not all Geordi's fault. I mean, he is wrong to lie about how he knows so much about her. And he should have been more upfront about it, and he even admits this. And he also should have deleted the fucking hologram. But the existence of the hologram isn't actually his fault. The computer created the hologram of Leah for him, which is fucking scary. I mean, why did it do that? He never requested it. That said, he didn't have to go and add a personality to it and fall in love with it. But I think the real scary thing about it is the technology, because we're kind of headed this way. It's going to happen. I mean, we don't have holograms yet, but deep fakes are getting weirder and weirder. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But at least in the world of Star Trek, they should probably just make a rule. Don't create real people on the holodeck. You know? I mean, there's got to be a way for the computer to not allow that, right? But it always allows it. It almost encourages it. I don't know. Just a thought. Anyway, I've babbled long enough. That's all I got for now. Let me know what you think of this one. Hopefully next time I'll do an episode that has nothing to do with awkward romantic encounters. That would be nice. Anyway, until next time, take it easy.